Season 51, war number 1, and we are up against Sålty once again. And this time my team will be Omega Red, Shocker and Venom. I will be taking Patch 7 in Section 1, Patch 7 in Section 2, then I will be taking an Onslaught mini-boss along with that Quicksilver boss using Venom. So that's gonna be a very fun one. I was very excited to be able to take the fight, and well, we'll see once we get there on how it goes. Starting off here we have a Chee'ilth on the second wind damage reflection node, and I will be taking the fight with Omega Red, a 7-star rank 3, high sig Omega Red, might I add, with the recoil masteries. Game plan here is to just hit the opponent with basic attacks, slow playing it, stacking up the spores, and then just letting the spore damage do the work along with my basic hits. I'm not gonna throw any specials of my own, because the node would then apply debuffs on the opponent, which Chee'ilth would then cleanse and trigger the damage reflection, which I don't really wanna deal with. So just basic attacks, let the spores do the work, and the fight is done in about 30 seconds. She just melted from all the spore damage, and the basic attacks themselves hit surprisingly hard as well when you're fully boosted and running recoils. Then we have a Wong here on the second wind damage reflection and winded node along with the physical resistance node, and I'm taking this fight with Omega Red as well. Now here I can actually use my special attacks as well, and I can also parry, so I can lock in those spores with my heavies. Now keep in mind I am still relatively new in using Omega Red, so if there is a better way to use him, well, I'm sure I'll figure it out with the more I play him, but for now I'm just doing what I know works, and oh, it'll work. And this Wong here is just melting, only 18 spores, 30 seconds into the fight, and yeah, he's gone. There's no risk of dying in this fight at all. Just stick close, let the spores do the work, and that's it for that fight. Now, I will be taking off my recoil masteries now at this point, since that was the final Omega Red fight of the war. I technically had one more assigned for him, but I ended up choosing Venom over him instead, so I wouldn't have to spend units on another mastery swap, and the fight itself is not difficult at all. Venom should completely shred it. Then we have an infamous Iron Man here on the second wind unblockable and make a stand nodes, and I'm taking the fight with Venom. Now both of these champions are tactic, so there is the unblockable, or the auto block and evade, as well as clarity on my attacker. So I just gotta be careful at the start of the fight until I get the clarity passive, and then just nuke the defender. This does have the make a stand node, so I go for a heavy knockdown, and now, since the protection is down, I can just go in, and yeah, the defender is just melting. Venom is insane, fully boosted, and that fight was less than 30 seconds, full yellow bar, no issues whatsoever. Though I gotta say, infamous Iron Man himself is not really a difficult defender by any means, but still, you get the point. Then we have a Mantis on the second wind unblockable and power creep nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Venom. Now this one was the other fight that was assigned for Omega Red, but Venom should just make quick work of this, since as long as you don't let Mantis use her special one, she has no way of actually purifying or cleansing any debuffs, so the second wind node will not come into play. Now, of course, I do have a Tranquilize passive on myself, lowering my debuff ability accuracy, but as you can see, any bleeds that do go through the ability accuracy reduction just completely melt Mantis, and down she goes, once again a very quick fight. Now then, we have a fight that we should be familiar with at this point, unless I haven't uploaded any videos on this fight. I'm a little bit lost on these myself, I'm sorry about that. But it is an Onslaught on the ebb and flow, and knockdown and right back at it mini-boss node, and I'm taking the fight with Shocker. This is usually the fight that I get assigned Shocker for, and oftentimes it is the only fight Shocker sees in that specific war. But at the very least it's a fun one to do. Now usually for this fight I like to use an advanced power boost, but since my Shocker is awakened, that's definitely not needed. The aggression prowess node here ramps up your charges for you, so all you really gotta do is just get the special 2, then dash around for a bit for the ramp up, and you're good to go. But to speed things up a little bit, I do go for a single special 1 anyways. So at this point I'm at a full ramp up, just gonna get to that special to throw it, which will then knock down the defender, removing the ebb and flow knockdown protection, giving me a passive fury on top, and then the passive stun will just ignore the right back added node since it is a passive, fully charge up my heavy attack, and well, he's not surviving that. That heavy attack was well over 400,000 damage by itself, which is basically Onslaught from 100 to 0 in a single hit. Always very satisfying to finish out that fight. I do like taking it, but there is a slight hiccup that's coming up in a future war video, but more on that once we get to that one. Now here we have a Quicksilver on the boss node, and I will be taking this fight with Venom. Essentially, this fight comes down to whether or not you get your clarity passive up before you get fully just auto-blocked and comboed to death at the start of the fight. So, plan is land some hits and get lucky, get some buffs from Venom's kit. Just do whatever you gotta do to get the clarity up. Once that's up, like it is now, you're free to just nuke the defender. Now Quicksilver is not bleed immune, so this fight is not gonna last all that long. Now my buff RNG from Venom's kit has not been great, I have no precisions, and well, a couple furies are nice, but the bleeds are where most of its damage comes from, so that's definitely hurting me a bit here, but even then, the damage is there. Now, I can usually dex these special 2s just fine, as you can see here, but it does come with a bit of practice. I wouldn't recommend it if you're not fully comfortable doing it. Blocking it is just fine. The damage is not that high that you would have to worry about it. Worry about dying if you don't fully dex it, especially on the boss node. But if you can do it, it's a very easy to punish, it's a great opening to get, and the dex on it is very satisfying to do as well. Now the fight goes down in a little bit over a minute, which I would consider slow, since my buff RNG was as bad as it was. Just even a single precision buff at the start of the fight, and that time would be cut down by around 20 or so seconds, I would say. Now as for the results, we did end up losing this war 1-5, so Sålty completely wiped the floor with us this time around. They got their payback for the previous season's war number 1.